Let's bring in Jamal Jaffer, the former associate White House counsel to President George W. Bush and former chief counsel for the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He's now the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute. There are great fears, Jamal, that this war, this battle between Israel and Hamas could expand and bring more players from the Middle East onto the battlefield. What do you think the chances of that are?
Well, John, look, let's be clear. There are already other players involved in this battle. Iran has long backed Hamas in the south, in Gaza, and Hezbollah in the north. Both of these terrorist groups have attacked Israel repeatedly using Iranian-provided intelligence, information, money, and weaponry. And so Iran is involved, like it or not, in this conflict. And that's a huge part of the problem that's driving this entire fight.
I believe President Biden said in that 60 Minutes interview that he didn't think that Iran had foreknowledge of the Hamas attack. Does that ring true with you?
You know, it's hard to believe, but here's what we do know. We know that just in the last 24 to 48 hours, Iranian senior officials have met with Hamas's leadership, have discussed what's ongoing. And while they've gone back and forth about what their position on whether they would get involved directly in this fight is, the reality is they've long been involved in a proxy war, not just against Israel, but also against the United States. They funded at least two terrorist groups, Ansar al-Haq and Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq during our time there, killed hundreds of Americans with Iranian-made explosive form penetrators. So Iran has been coming after both the United States and Israel repeatedly on the battlefield, albeit through proxies.
Yeah, but Iran tends to back off when they are confronted with powerful military force. The fact that we've got two aircraft carrier groups off the coast of Israel right now, do you think that is sufficient to keep Iran from meddling even further in this Mideast war?
Well, look, I think President Biden has been fairly clear. His first statement out of the box was very direct and made clear that any nation state or non-state actor who sought to take advantage would face consequences. And the fact that we've moved the Gerald Ford and the Dwight Eisenhower into the region demonstrates that we're serious. Now, the question is, will our adversaries take us seriously? You know, we have also demonstrated with the withdrawal in Afghanistan, our failure to really deter China effectively in Taiwan, and our long-standing failure back in the day to not uphold the Syria red line, that we don't always stand by our word when it comes to our allies and our defense of our own nation. And so, you know, we'll see whether the Iranians take this seriously, but moving those carrier carriers into the region is absolutely the right thing to do, and demonstrates our support for Israel as well as our willingness to push back if other state actors get involved more directly.
The president has said Israel has his full support and the full backing of the United States, but he also said in that 60 Minutes interview tonight that Israel should not occupy Gaza. Now, that it's not a backpedaling, but why even say that? Why not just say, let the Israelis decide what needs to be done and how long it's going to take?
You know, John, I'm reminded of what happened to us after 9/11. We lost 3,000 Americans in a single day, nearly 3,000 Americans. We went into Afghanistan with the full backing of our allies. We went in. Nobody said how long we should be there, what we should do. They understood the justice of our cause. They understood the need to take out the Taliban and the need to take out al-Qaeda, and that decade-long search for both Osama bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri. So for the fact that we're even talking about what the Israelis should or shouldn't do, they suffered the equivalent of roughly 16 9/11s on a population-adjusted basis. And so the fact that we're even discussing whether they should occupy Gaza or not, look, the Israelis don't want to occupy Gaza. If they wanted to occupy Gaza, they would have done it a dozen years ago. The reality is they don't have that desire. Their desire is to take out Hamas, take it to the ground as they should, having killed 1,400 Israelis in a single day.
Do you think they can be successful?
You know, that's a much harder question. It will be a door-to-door fight. It will be very challenging because Hamas has already demonstrated they will use civilians as shields. You've seen the Israeli Defense Forces just in the last 24, 48 hours saying the people of Gaza should move to the south, past the Wadi, so they're not affected by the fight. Hamas is telling its own people stay in place, knowing that the Israeli Defense Forces are coming in and expecting their own people to be killed. It's callous and shows a complete disregard for human life, as if Hamas hadn't shown enough by what they did in Israel. They're now showing a disregard for the lives of their own people as well.
Unbelievable. Jamil Jaffer, we appreciate your time. Thank you. And we'll be right back.